Awesome. Well, thank you, Marcella, for the warm intro. Hello. Happy Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. It's good to see you all here. And please do type in questions, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. My name is Taylor Shanklin. I'm the CEO and founder of Barlele. We help nonprofits and small businesses with branding and messaging and marketing strategy, and social media is one of the things that we do quite a bit. So I wanted to put together this webinar and talking to the Charity How-To team about some top tips that you need before end of year fundraising. And I do want to say that this is all applicable to social media in general. So I'm not going to go super in the weeds into just year-end giving, but I really want to give you things that you can use at year-end giving, Giving Tuesday, and holistically new things to think about, tactical strategies to put into place to get more out of your social media, both from an organic social perspective and a paid advertising social perspective. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to email me, taylor@barlele.com, and we can stay in touch. Without any further ado, my friends call me T-Shank. Feel free to throw that at me if you would like. I've been doing digital strategy for nonprofits for 14, almost 15 years, and have worked with a lot of different types of organizations over those years, large and small, and done pretty much every digital marketing thing you could think about when it comes to fundraising. So I bring that experience to the table here today. I'm also a TEDx speaker and a podcast producer and host. So it's good to be here. It's good to see you all here. All right, I want to kick us off with a poll and learn from you, from the audience. How are you currently increasing brand awareness through social media? So let me get this poll kicked off because I want to see, I kind of want to gauge where people are at right now. So let me know, are you doing a mix of organic and paid strategies? Are you doing things like video? Are you commenting and engaging on other people's social? Are you getting engaged with groups and communities and social channels? You're doing a little bit of all of the above. And I know that there's a lot of things you can do on social, so it's hard to pick a poll with just 4 or 5 options. But let us know what you're doing so far today. All right, and I'm seeing most people right now are saying 41% all of the above, and then the next in line is 31%, a mix of organic and paid strategy. Small percentage next in line is 13% at videos, 8% are commenting on engaging on other people's pages and posts, and 6% are doing groups and communities. All right, I'll give it 2 more seconds. We'll see who, I think we've got a clear winner. All right, so I'm going to close. I'm going to share that too in case you want to see the poll results. So good to hear that the majority of you all are already doing either a mix of things or all of the above, like you're kind of dabbling and, you know, dipping your toes in the waters of all of these things. So good to hear we've got a good group here who's already doing quite a bit, it sounds like. All right, let's get into tactical things that you can do. I want to first start off with how to strategize around your content, how to plan your content, and then I'm going to get into things like maximizing your hashtags, growing your audience organically. I'm going to give you some tips for Facebook and Instagram advertising strategy. And last thing I'm going to round it out with today is a talk on tools, because I love tools. And there are so many amazing, powerful technology tools that make our jobs easier these days when it comes to social media, because I know social media can be very overwhelming, and a lot of the organizations we work with can quickly become overwhelmed by social because there's so much to know and so much to do and so much to think through. So I'm going to give you my top tools and show you things that my team and I use to do social media for ourselves and for our clients. All right, so let's get into step 1. First, you got to figure out, like, what are you even going to say, right? So if you're thinking right now, specifically, maybe what's hot on your mind is your year-end giving campaign, or maybe you're gearing up for Giving Tuesday, and then that's going to trickle into year-end. What are you going to say? How do you strategize your content? First, I want to stop with what are some top trends, and the reason why I want to give you a quick drumbeat on the top trends is because a lot of times, and my clients ask me that often, well, what should our social look like? What should our numbers look like? And so if you haven't read the M&R benchmark report, I highly recommend going and downloading that and reading it. It's one of the greatest industry benchmark reports when it comes to digital marketing trends, email marketing, paid advertising, and they've added in a lot more in recent years around social media for nonprofits. So if you're trying to first get a gauge of what you could or should look like in terms of the numbers on social media, this is a really good benchmark report to look at, to start to kind of think through, like, what are maybe some potential goals or metrics. And I start there again because as you're thinking about planning out a lot of different types of content, or what you want to get out of social media in particular to your end of your fundraising campaign, I think it's good to have a gauge and a guide of what are other nonprofits in the industry doing. All right, the next thing when it comes to planning your content is not even yet thinking about the content, but thinking a little bit more about how do we put all of this down on a piece of paper and really kind of project manage the process. So the first recommendation when it comes to strategizing and planning your content is to use some sort of a good old-fashioned project management tool. Some of the ones that I like are Airtable, ClickUp, Trello, Asana. You can even use a good old-fashioned spreadsheet. I have a free one if you want to go to barlele.com/learn. There's a spreadsheet that you can use that download on Google Sheets to plan your content. And then another tool that I like is called Cloud Campaign. I'm going to talk about that one later too. This allows you to both plan your content and schedule your content. The reason I think this is so important is because it can be very easy to get into the cycle of randomly posting things, right? And then feeling like you don't really have a clear plan in place, or having people throw things at you like, well, you got to go post this now, you got to go post this now. And if you've got a good content plan in place, at least it gives you a little bit of armor and a little bit of ammo when those maybe board members suddenly throw things at you, where you can say, hey, we've got a whole content plan, right? Let's see where this fits in. So it helps you from an organization perspective internally. It helps you from the perspective of setting expectations with your team and your board and other people who might be throwing their ideas at you for social media. And it just helps you have a place where you can bring it all together and everyone knows what's going to be coming up. So if you don't have something like this already for year-end giving, you can try any of these tools for free. Trello, Asana, ClickUp, they all have free options, so you don't even have to spend a lot of money to get a good project management tool for planning your content. One of the things that I love about some of these tools as well is they allow you to lay your content out in a very visual way or in a calendar, so it's easy to see what's coming up, what it looks like, and when it's going to be posted. All right, next, once you have your tool, start to brainstorm and think about themes. Right? And so I like to think about planning my content in terms of, I want to have a little bit of awareness, I want to have a little bit of fundraising, I want to have a little bit of storytelling, and I want to have some events in there as well. And then mix and match those different types of themes throughout the month, the quarter, the week. My biggest thing around planning content is to be realistic with your time. Be realistic with yourself, because it can very quickly become overwhelming where you can try, if you feel like, oh my gosh, we got to post content on social every single day. And if that's just wildly unrealistic for you and your team based on, the people that you have at your organization, maybe you've got a small team, it's okay. You don't have to post every day. Be realistic and plan it out. Be intentional and be thoughtful, and come up with a mix of posts. Because if all you're ever doing is only fundraising, then your audience is going to eventually start to disengage. So it really needs to be a mix of these different types of plays on social: awareness, fundraising, storytelling, and events, and other ways you're asking people to get involved, either with an event, attendance, or an advocacy petition or something like that. So mix it up. The next step in planning your content is really thinking about plotting your content. And this is pretty specific to Instagram when you look at the visual that I have here. And if you've ever heard people talking about making the perfect grid on Instagram, this is kind of what we're talking about. So that when people scroll and they open up and they look at your profile for the first time, and I'm pretending to look at a profile, you see that grid of different graphics, and it visually is appealing, and it visually works together because it's actually planned out, as opposed to kind of a hodgepodge of different graphics that don't look as nice. Now, that's a little bit, you know, a play into the vanity on Instagram, but if you're really thinking about having your profile look professional, you can even start to think about, okay, how starting for end of year giving, do we start to kind of build that profile and plot it out so that we're telling a story along the grid line with the different types of posts that we're planning. And this is just an example of one of the ways in which we coach our clients to start to think about, okay, how to plan your grid. First, you might want to have a story from a donor if you have that, or how to do something, or educational videos about the work that you do or your organization, infographics, you know, behind the scenes things. So these are all just ideas to get your wheels turning and thinking about how could you take this kind of content plot and start to think about, okay, how can I apply this to my end of year giving campaign and start to plot my grid on my social profile that way. Now, this is pretty specific to Instagram because on other channels you don't see the grid plot. However, what I'll say is it's maybe less relevant visually on a tool like Facebook or LinkedIn or some other channel, but it does matter still in terms of, again, just giving people a mix of different kinds of content that you're sharing. That helps to keep people interested and engaged by giving them essentially the same overall story and message about your organization, but you're telling it in different ways through different types of awareness tactics and different types of content. This is an example of us taking a client's grid and saying, hey, this is what you're currently doing on the left, right? It's just kind of a bunch of pictures, and they're all nice pictures, but there's not really necessarily visually a cohesive look to them. And us then proposing, hey, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about plotting your content. So you can see, again, the eye just looks at it and it's visually broken up in a different way that's a little bit easier to kind of follow the storyline if you're reading left to right. Just a sample of what we mean by plotting your content. All right, let's get into hashtags, right? And I hear this a lot, like, what's the purpose of hashtags, right? And so I really want to break down hashtags today and how to think about using them and very in the weeds tactics about hashtags, because they seem to continue sometimes to confuse us. And so I want to break that down and give you recommendations on hashtags. First, I will say, read that blog if you want to learn more about hashtags. It's a really good read with a video on the Hootsuite blog, kind of all about hashtags and specific different platforms treat hashtags in different ways. One of the platforms that hashtags matter the most on is Instagram. And so you will actually see a little bit of a bent toward how to do hashtags on Instagram in that blog and that link below that we'll provide. But the point with hashtags is to really think through in terms of like getting more visible, is to do some hashtag research, and I'm going to give you a recommendation on a tool for that, and then to add in hashtags that are seen to and shown to large audiences alongside of hashtags that are a little bit more specific and likely to be shown to fewer people. And so when you think about hashtags and using hashtags very intentionally, it's really about increasing your reach. Hashtags are a way to get found and be seen And I like to think of them as kind of like SEO for social media. So a way to get found and be seen by people who maybe don't already follow your organization or know who you are. That's why hashtags are important. This is an example of putting that hashtag strategy into place, where we went out and we did some research for a particular cause area, and we said, okay, if these hashtags at the very bottom that you'll see down here, these are going to be shown based on usage and what we can find. These are going to be shown in about 10,000 to 20,000 posts. And then we move up the ladder in terms of how frequent these hashtags are actually used across social media. So these are used less frequently down here at the bottom. And the further you go kind of up the ladder, the further you start to find hashtags that are very frequent. And the reason I say to use a mix of big audience hashtags and small audience hashtags is because if you get specific down here at the bottom and you mix that with more general, broad hashtags at the top, you're going to start to see better results in terms of your reach. There's a hashtag generator tool that we like to use called, I thought I had a slide in here. Here it is. Slides were out of order. Called GraphTag. This is it's a free tool. You can go and you can check it out, and you can start to research words that have to do with your cause or people like interests that maybe are related to your cause area or your mission, and it'll start to give you information on the kinds of hashtags that you can use that might help to expand your reach. Now, another example, and again, this is specific to looking at Instagram and hashtags. This is just an example of using 10 hashtags, right, versus over on the right using 30 hashtags. And you'll see what's important here is down on the left when it says from hashtags, only 36 people or accounts were reached, right, when you used fewer hashtags. When you increase your hashtags, then you increase your reach, and a lot more people saw the post or saw the profile because of hashtags. So to break down something that feels sometimes still like a bit of a nebulous concept, that is the value in getting your hashtags right. And they do differ on different platforms. So when you're thinking about preparing your social media content for your end of year fundraising, don't completely reuse and recycle everything exactly the same. You do need to do some customization on different platforms because each platform has their own algorithms, their own way of working, and you do have to sort of make adjustments to your posts based on the platform. So when it comes to hashtags, here's what we have found to work the best. Facebook, you don't need a lot, you don't want a lot. You probably want just 2 to 3 related hashtags. Instagram is the one where the platform likes a lot of hashtags, and it is going to increase your reach. The more related hashtags, don't just post random hashtags. Make sure they're actually related to your topic and what you are posting. And lastly, LinkedIn. We like to do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn as well. I want you to think about year-end fundraising and how you could potentially get your board involved in sharing information about your year-end appeals on LinkedIn. And that platform likes about 3 to 5 hashtags for optimized viewing capabilities. All right, let's talk about organic growth next. And by the way, that hashtag strategy all applies to organic and paid. So one of the best ways to grow your following is showing up consistently every day and doing organic stuff. It's not the fast way, it's not the easiest way, but it is the right way to start to build your audience on social and to start to engage people. Now, these are recommendations on daily engagement activities. And I'm going to say, when I read these bullet points, when you're thinking about specifically, I get a lot of questions about how to grow Instagram. It's very easy to see ads that tell you like, hey, we'll get you 1,000 followers in a week. Don't click on those ads. Those are things that are just there to entice you for something that feels like a quick win. But if you really want to build trust and authority in your brand and your organization, it's really important to do things to start the organic way and the right way. It does take time, right? And so again, I tell you to be realistic with your time, right? Because if you really want to be intentional with growing audience here, it does take some time. You can just do a little bit every single day, or you can put an intern on this. But this is just recommended daily engagement that we have seen to work well to really organically grow followers on social, right? So commenting on other people's posts that are related, that you feel like align well with your brand. That's one of the best ways to organically grow, is to go out and to actually care about other people's content. So maybe you have volunteers, maybe you have peer-to-peer participants, maybe you have people who benefit from your programs or services. Start engaging with those people. If you have board members, start engaging with those people online as well, and that helps to organically grow and be seen. I know that when you look at some of these bullet points and think like commenting on 30 to 60 recent posts from relevant hashtags, again, this is just a recommendation, and I say sometimes it's like, well, get an intern to do this for 30 minutes a day, and you will start to see that organic growth and organic proof. If you go and you try to buy followers, oftentimes they're fake accounts, they're bots. Your profile is going to get dinged for doing it because the platforms are wise to it now, and they know that that's what you're doing. And so I really don't recommend it. I recommend instead just doing a little bit every day, and consistently you'll start to see those numbers grow up. Facebook, I would take a little bit of a different tactic. So that's Instagram. One of the things we've seen work very well on Facebook, and I saw it look like 6% were doing things with groups and communities. Here's the thing about Facebook. Facebook wants you to pay for advertising. So if you have a page and you're posting things to the Facebook page, it likely might not get seen unless you boost the post, advertise the post, or start getting other people to share it on their personal profiles. However, groups in Facebook are treated rather differently because they are closed. They are communities, right? They are communities starting this group, and Facebook shows all of your posts very much to the people in the group on Facebook. So we're seeing a lot of success with people who are starting to form more community engagement on Facebook by taking things into a Facebook group and inviting people who are engaged with your organization into the group. They're gonna see things more often from an organic, non-paid perspective if you start doing some things in groups. And again, pages really are just more of a pay to play at this point. So that's kind of a little bit about Facebook and kind of thinking through, because I have heard this, and it's from many clients and other partners who do a lot of work in social media, that God, it seems like Facebook is down, and I really see it more in terms of what gets shown on a Facebook page. But Facebook groups are growing, and people will see your stuff that you post in a group. So just one thing to think about in terms of strategy on different channels. All right, I'm going to do a quick time check. All right, let's get into some advertising strategies now. All right, so I want to run one more poll here, and I want to know if you're currently spending any ad money on social channels. Let us know. Yes on Facebook, yes on Instagram, yes Google ads, all of the above, or none of the above. All right. A lot of Facebook, and then 49% none of the above. 8 yes on Instagram, Google Ads, 10% all of the above. And you might even be running some things. I find it less common in our industry to run ads on LinkedIn. Those tend to be more expensive. Facebook and Instagram tend to be the best bang for your buck. A lot of nonprofits run things on Google Ads, especially if you get the Google Ads grant going for your organization. That can be an effective tool for increasing search ability on, search engines. Okay, great. So I'm going to close this out and share those results. So we saw 34% of you are spending money on Facebook, 9% on Instagram, 11% on Google, 10% all of the above, and then 52% none of the above. All right, well, I'm going to give you some strategies to think about today. And again, I know this is kind of Facebook and Instagram heavy, but I do see those two channels and continue to see those two channels as the ones that have large audience, are highly effective, and in terms of spending money, they really give you a good bang for your buck to get that brand awareness out there and start getting people to see your organization and the work that you're doing. I'm going to hide that poll. Thanks everyone for chiming in on it. All right, so I first want to have a real heart-to-heart with everyone here today about boosting versus Facebook Ads Manager. You've probably seen that boost button a lot, and maybe you've clicked on it before. We all have. But I want to talk about the reason to run your ads through Facebook Ads Manager versus just clicking that boost button. And the boost button, it's great, it's shiny, it's really easy to do because you have, a post that you posted on your Facebook page, and then Facebook starts saying, hey, you could boost this post. Here's why it's a less effective strategy. Yes, number one, it is easy. It's very easy to boost a post and say, let's see what happens. Let's put 20 bucks in and find out what happens. However, there is a lot less that you can do with a boosted post than if you actually go into Facebook Ads Manager and set up a real ad account and start running ad campaigns in Ad Manager. And this is a kind of a full kind of high level list of like, here's all the stuff you can do in Facebook Ads Manager and you can't do when you boost a post. And I like to be real with this because I know a lot of organizations that I've worked with, and I've done this before too, like, oh, boost, yeah, that's great, sure, let's just try this. But they're less effective, your reach, you can't control as much about the ad, you can't actually build quite as good of an audience. There's just a lot more that you can actually do if you set it up in Facebook Ads Manager. It does take a little bit more setup time, and it's not as easy, but you're gonna get a lot more out of it and you're gonna have a lot more control. Also, I saw 34% say yes, we're running ads on Facebook, but 9% say yes on Instagram. You might consider setting up ads within, if you connect your Instagram account to your Facebook account, you can manage all of it from within the Facebook Business Manager suite. And that makes it really easy to also run ads. You can set up the ads in Facebook and then select to run them on Instagram as well. So that's an easy way to start saying, hey, we're going to also try to run these on Instagram at the same time that we're running them on Facebook. So do the work to set up Ads Manager and you'll have a lot more control about your ads. All right, then I want you to think about, what does an ad strategy look like, right? We think about it in this way. There's sort of like 3 levels, and you can break it down even more, but like let's keep it simple and effective all at the same time. So usually you're starting out with a cold campaign where like you're just trying to get in front of more eyeballs and get more people to see your ads in your organization who aren't yet familiar with you. Right? So a cold campaign is going to target audiences who have yet to interact with your brand. Once they've started interacting with your brand, that's when you start running a warm campaign. They've seen you before, they've engaged a little bit, maybe they're a fan, they get a little bit of a different message. And then you get into the hot campaign. People who visited the website, maybe they even started filling out a form on your website, but they didn't actually complete the interaction. If you have the Facebook pixel set up on your website, then you can actually start to track these interactions. And then the next time you see them on Facebook or Instagram, you can serve them up a hot campaign and something that is familiar to them. So it's really about starting to first get in front of them and then starting to nurture them a little bit, and then starting to really nurture them and say like, hey, we noticed you've checked this out before, right? Do you want to finish that donation? Do you want to finish that petition? Do you want to sign up to be a sustained giver? Do you want to give to our end of year campaign, or become an advocate for us on Giving Tuesday, as an example? I want you to think about, in this funnel, what are your different audience profiles, right? Who are you targeting? One of the nice things about advertising on Facebook and Instagram is you can get pretty granular. You can't necessarily pick out Lena or Claire as an individual person, but you can target these types of profiles. And so we like to even set up, personas like these, where it's like, okay, we've got Lena, we've got Claire, we've got Anthony. They have different personas, they have different profiles, they've interacted with us in different ways. And we're going to start to use what we know about them to engage with them based on what we know. Once we start to understand this audience, this is an example of actually what a campaign strategy workflow or campaign workflow could look like. So you're first hitting Lena cold, right? She's never seen you before. She's a busy businesswoman who doesn't know anything about your organization, but maybe you serve her a Facebook ad and she sees something, right? She might go immediately to your donation page and give a donation and fill out the form and sign up for your newsletter. And if she does, awesome, she's on the list. But she might not. She might need a little warming up. If you've ever heard the rule of 7, the rule of 7 is that it takes someone 7 times before they actually take action after seeing your brand or seeing something that gave them information. And so this is the beauty of like really thinking through the different phases of the funnel of, you're coming in cold, we're probably going to have to warm you up for a while. You might not make a donation on the first, cold call, but we're going to warm you up. We're going to actually run specific warm campaigns on these social channels to continue to let you get to know us and let you know how to get involved, right? And then we're going to move you. Let's say again, you go into that hot zone where, and you probably all experienced this before, you go online to buy a pair of shoes, you put the shoes in the cart, your kid distracts you, you walk away, you don't buy the shoes, and then 24 hours later, you get an email from Zappos that's like, hey, these shoes are still in your cart. Do you want to buy these shoes? We really think you want these shoes. These shoes will look great on you, right? You can think about this in the same way of those Zappos emails that you get when you don't buy the shoes, right? So again, if you have the pixel, the Facebook pixel tracked and integrated into your online fundraising page or your website, you can start to do that thing that the shoe companies do to us, but with donors. Hey, we saw that you hung out, you didn't end up making the donation. So those are some ways to move people along the funnel and nurture them from cold to warm to hot with your online ads. All right, I want you to think too about, and I know we're getting low on time, and you're going to get these slides, by the way. You'll have the whole slide deck, and you can always feel free to reach out with questions if you've got questions to follow up on. But when you're thinking about each donor persona, I want you to start thinking about how do you answer all of these questions, right? When you're thinking through your ad strategy, what's going to be in your ad? First off, what's the purpose of the ad? What's your objective? And then you got to think about the different parts of the ad, your statement, something that's going to get people's attention, a catchy headline. You've maybe thought about this before in terms of your email subject lines. What's going to be catchy? What's going to get people to open? When it comes to social media advertising, what's going to get people to stop scrolling? If they're scrolling, and we're all like this all the time, what's going to get them to stop scrolling and to click in? Then you want to let them know who you are. What problem do you solve in the world, and why does it matter to them? Why are they a part of it? Why do you fit into their life aspirations? And then why should they donate or join in on this activity? With each different donor persona, go through and define all of these objectives. So this is just another example of, we looked at Lena, now we're looking at Claire. This is who Claire is. This is kind of the basic makeup of Claire and people like Claire. And here's our objective with this persona group. And then lastly, we've got Anthony, someone who almost completed that donation or almost completed that form or almost signed up for our peer-to-peer fundraising event. Let's reach Anthony with this objective and this urgency and this message and this call to action. So again, as you think about different personas and different stages of the funnel, plan out and chart out the objectives of each ad, the messaging of each ad, and what you're going to ask people to do with each ad. All right, lastly, I'm going to wrap it up with social media tools. So let's talk tools. High five if you're already using Canva. It's literally one of the best tools ever invented on the internet, in my opinion. I'm a little bit of a dork about Canva, but it really is an amazing tool, and it can make your life on social media a lot easier because you can just so quickly create graphics and videos and infographics. We use Canva for 90% of the marketing materials that we do for ourselves and for our clients because it's so powerful. So I recommend, if you're not using Canva yet, as a nonprofit, you can apply to get it for free. It's $12.95 a month, so it's pretty inexpensive anyways, and it's incredibly powerful. They have awesome templates in there that you can then customize, tweak, make them your own. We like to connect as much as possible so that we mitigate risk and, kind of put into our QA and workflow, making sure we're designing things and then we're posting and scheduling the right thing. So I really come to love the tool Publer for scheduling if you are using Canva for design, because Publer and Canva integrate, and you can design something in Canva for your social, and then you can literally connect it to Publer and push it directly to Publer. You can set up many social profiles. Publer is also really affordable, in my opinion. Some of the other tools on the market, you've got Hootsuite, you've got Sprout Social. There's a lot of tools on the market. Buffer, many tools, but this one I think is really affordable for what you get, and it is the only one that I could find that integrates directly with Canva. So I started using it for that reason and have found it to be highly effective. They also have decent analytics in Publer. If you start scheduling everything in Publer, you can start to get a pretty good amount of analytics and understanding what posts are working and what posts are not working. So I love those two tools, especially working together. I also love Cloud Campaign. Now, this is another tool that it doesn't connect directly with Canva, but it's really good for the planning of your content, for the approval process of your content. So if you have several people working on content, this one also has a really good approval process built in. You can set up one person as the admin to be the final approver of content, but you can have other editors involved. Cloud Campaign is one of the best tools I have found on the market for analytics about social media. Highly recommend it. Again, you can start at about $39 a month. So again, it's not super expensive. It's not as expensive as some of the other tools out there that are going to be $150 to $200 a month. Cloud Campaign can go up, but if you're just connecting profiles only for your organization, $39 a month, and you get some of the best reporting that I've seen in social media analytics. You can also connect it to your Google Analytics for your website, and you can start to see a bit of the combination of social media and how social media affects web traffic. So that's interesting stuff to see. The last tool I'm going to call out is called Envato Elements. I love this website for all of the templates that you can buy, all the stock photos that you can buy. It's a massive library of professional photos, you know, website graphics, social graphics, presentation graphics. Again, it's just a great place to start with a lot of templates that you can then customize and make your own with your brand. So those are some of my favorite tools that we use every day, all day and every day to manage social media for ourselves and for the clients that we serve. So really good tools, really affordable. I've got some freebies for you if you want a social media Canva template book that we built. It's all generic. You can plop your name in, you can plop your logo, but it gives you a lot of ideas for different types of content and types of posts for social. So go grab that. If you have a Canva account, it is shared as a template, and you can just say, use this a template, and you can apply it into your Canva account. Same with the brand guidelines book. This is the process and the formula and the methodology that we do for branding and messaging, and we have a template for you in Canva to use as well for that if you're interested. So go check those out, and hopefully they help you guys. I know we're right at the 45-minute mark. I'll open it up for questions, and I can hang on the line. I know Marcella and I are able to hang on the line for a little while afterwards.
So I'm seeing a couple of questions. Do you want me to read them to you, or do you see them?
Yeah, go ahead and read them out.
Okay, perfect. So let me see. Levy asks, do you have any tips for outsmarting the Facebook algorithm so more people will see what we post?
I wish I did. I'd be a lot richer. No. No, I mean, I think that's where I don't know that you can really outsmart the algorithm. It's rather secretive, to be honest. But that's where I think playing the right hashtags is important. There are strategies that we know that work, right, to get your stuff to be seen more. Number one, on Facebook, if it's a page, going back to what I said earlier, really the best bet to get more of your posts seen on your page are to pay for some advertising for them. Videos still tend to do well, and I will say Facebook Lives do well. So if you want to start having some stuff seen, let's say you have an event or you have something that you want to highlight and you want to talk about, and you want to just open up a quick Facebook Live video and talk about it, or maybe interview someone about it, those get shown more than other things get shown. Videos get shown. Video, the thing that's important to know about video on Facebook is you want to post it directly in Facebook. If you link to a YouTube video or a Vimeo video or a video hosted on another site, it's less likely to get seen. So I guess I would say, like, as much as you can, post things what's referred to as natively in the app as opposed to linking out to something else. You can even think about it this way. Let's say you have a blog on your website and you want to post a link to the blog for people to read the blog on your website. The more you link outside of Facebook, the less they like you because they want to keep you in. So you can even try things like posting what's called a long form post, where you literally take all the same content, but you just post it directly as a long post in Facebook as opposed to a blog. Then if you want, in the comment section, you can say, hey, by the way, this is also on our blog, on our website, check out this link. that's one tip, in addition to the hashtags, in addition to paying to play. And the last tip is just going back to, if you see opportunity to create a Facebook group and invite people to follow your page to join the group, you're way more likely to get things that you post into the group to be shown than you are on your page. Facebook changed this several years ago now at this point, where they just, again, they started seeing dollar signs and saying, hey, we can make pages, AKA what they think of as business profiles, pay to get more engagement. And so that's when we saw that engagement go down. But those hopefully are some strategies that can help you a little bit.
Wonderful. Thank you. Benjamin asks, are hashtags relevant to Twitter at all?
Yes, they are. That's a good question, and I didn't put that in there. But yes, hashtags matter a lot on Twitter, actually, as well. And I can find and send a follow-up email, Marcella, if y'all send up like follow-ups with the recording and slides or anything like that. I can update with some Twitter statistics in the slide deck as well.
Oh, wonderful.
For the number of hashtags. I don't know off the top of my head.
Thank you. Yes, that would be really, really helpful. Kara asks, Facebook group versus page. Can you still receive analytics about performance as a group instead of a page? Can you still boost inside of a group?
That's a good question. I don't think so. Don't quote me on this, but that is a difference. Groups really are seen more as communities and discussion forums, whereas pages are, you get a lot more analytics and insights on. I don't believe there's analytics and insights on groups. But again, don't quote me on that. But it's really kind of a difference in mindset about what each is. Groups are all about discussion and forum and driving community. Pages is more like your kind of open advertising page, or think of it like the phone book back in the day, or if someone Googles you and they see that information, think about your Facebook page a little bit more like that. It's kind of your window into your organization to the world, whereas people have to actually join a group, so it's a little bit more closed and it's more private. Hopefully that helps.
Okay. Casey asks, rather is more like a comment. Thanks for your helpful tips. Is there a reason why Twitter is not a good platform for fundraising? Because they're asking why you didn't mention them. Twitter.
Which one? Oh, Twitter. I just haven't seen as many positive results, honestly, on Twitter. And I have a lot less experience in working with clients on Twitter. Most of the work that we do, where we're seeing positive results, just happens to be more on Facebook and Instagram. That's not to say, and most of my clients, they've always had a hard time getting traction on Twitter. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do Twitter. I'm just probably not the most well-versed Twitter person out there, and have had a hard time seeing organizations get as much traction on Twitter. Twitter is very, very fast-moving. I think it's very hard to keep up with. This is maybe just my anecdotal advice and hunch about Twitter and kind of purview on Twitter. It tends to a little bit be more geared around news and keeping up with trends and what's going on in the world. And I've seen less in the way of actually like fundraising on Twitter. I've seen organizations use Twitter more as a media channel, an outlet for news about the organization, but I've seen less success in terms of like, oh yeah, there's definitely this big success story of fundraising on Twitter. So just been less of a focus for me and my clients.
Thank you. Okay, Kristen asks, is Publer just like Notion?
I'm not sure what Notion is. I feel like I've heard of it before, but I'm not super familiar with the tool. So I'd have to go. I think Notion is kind of like a note-taking tool, but I could be wrong about that. So I don't have the best answer for that.
Okay, that's fine. Dana asks, do you have any tips for promoting a 24-hour campaign such as a Giving Tuesday one?
Oh, tips for 24 hours? Yeah, I mean, as much as you can, I would say, like, if you've got a specific, um, I would plan things throughout the 24 hours, like giveaways, like if you can get matching gifts and give, hey, we're going to have a donor match. If we've reached X goal by 12 p.m. today, we have a donor who's going to match. So, like, try to find incentives and milestones throughout the day and kind of like keep hitting those milestones and having your content planned and prepared and ready to go for those milestones. I've seen that work well. I've also seen people do things like, pull up Facebook Lives for giving days where they're kind of getting on and periodically sharing a live video, sharing a live feed. Again, those get seen a lot more if you do live videos, and then they also stay. There's, I guess, priority given to them to be seen even after you're not even live anymore. It kind of hangs up there. Um, so those are some tools to kind of like get more engagement and interaction and just incentivize people to stay engaged and in touch and continue to like see things over the 24-hour period.
Okay. Melanie asks, do you have any tips on how to respond to a negative comment on a post?
Yes. Um, this is tricky, right? I don't recommend not responding. Uh, I think if you ignore negative posts, then that doesn't really do anything great for your brand. I think that's important to show that you get out there and you get in front of things and you do respond. It kind of depends contextually on the situation and what your response might be. Um, Sometimes I've seen this work well where you can respond to the post and say something like, "Hey, we're going to be in touch with you one on one," or we're reaching out to you via email, or we've DM'd you, right? So you don't have to give everyone a lot of detail, but you're showing that you're responsive and you're showing this other person that you're going to, you know, get back to them, but then you're, quote, taking it offline. Now, there's also the school of thought that like there's always trolls. If you have someone who's just completely trolling you, like you can delete their comments, you can block them, and that's something that in some situations you do need to do. Don't give in to the trolls, but if let's say there's a negative comment or two, I think it's best to respond and again kind of figure out the context of what's happening when you think about your response. But if you want to quote take it offline, then you can at least show people that you're responding and taking it offline.
Great. A couple more questions and then it's time for us to wrap
Yeah.
it up. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, but Husna, sorry again, asks, are there specific days that considered optimal in posting about fundraising on Facebook, Instagram for a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, great question. So it depends a little bit on looking at some of your own analytics and understanding when your audience engages. So step one, I say is like first look at your analytics and see if you can understand when your audience engages the most, because it might differ. The other thing I'll say is like trends that I see are posts do well on like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, middle of the week tend to do well. Um, Afternoon time frames tend to do well as well. I think it might be, people are starting maybe in the morning, they're busy at work, they're engaged in work, and then in the afternoon, they're taking a little coffee break and they're checking in on their feeds and things like that. I've seen less activity on Saturdays and a little bit more on Sunday afternoons if you're thinking about weekends. But again, those are kind of just some trends I've spotted and noticed. Again, go back and look at, if you can, your analytics on your page and try to understand when your audience is engaging and then start to test out different things like that based
Great.
on what you see with your audience.
Thank you. Okay, last question. Melissa asks, do you have info on how best to use targeting on Facebook ads? It gets so confusing, like how best to utilize all the details offered.
Yeah, it's it is a lot. I get it. There's a lot you can do. So first thing I always tell people is like, don't try to just boil the ocean, right? Like start small. There's a few different things you can do. You can target based on location. You can target based on interest areas. So if you want to start to narrow down a new audience, let's say in your region or your area, try to define together location-based targeting plus interest-based targeting. So looking for people who are interested in different topic areas that you feel like are related to what you're doing in your nonprofit. The other thing that you can do, and this works sometimes, I've kind of had hit or misses on this, is doing what's called lookalike audiences in Facebook. We actually take your donor list of emails, you upload them into Facebook, and then it helps you find more people. It recognizes their profile if they have that same email address associated with their profile. That's kind of one of the keys. Then it helps find other people like them, right? So it might help you identify other people who are like donors who you already have, who've already given and engaged with you. So those are two kind of key methodologies, is looking at interest plus regional targets together. You can also look at demographics, age ranges, things like that, and do kind of the interests and, demographics-based approach, or you can do the specific lookalike audience approach. Here's another little trick. If you have let's say there's a large organization with a much bigger following than yours, you can actually go and target people who like the large organization's page. Again, it's another way of like looking at kind of a general profile of, oh, people who like this page might like mine too. And so that's another way to kind of build an audience target list or base based on something that's similar to yours, but maybe they're not people who are currently following or familiar with your organization. So that's a little trick.
Okay, I guess that does it. Thank you so much, Taylor. This was a great webinar. Lovely to have you here with us today. And for all of those who are new to Charity How To, just know that we always ask you to please complete a survey that will pop up once we close the webinar, because your comments will help us improve our content. And since this is a free webinar and it's brand new, we would love to get your input. So that survey will take you 60 seconds to complete at most, and it's anonymous. So thanks in advance for completing that. Anything else that's left to say, Taylor?
No, just thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it was pretty tactical to think again about like all of these things can be applied to end of year giving and what you're doing right around the corner, or just more holistically as you think about, how to get more out of your social media. So thanks everyone. Stay in touch if you've got questions, and thank you, Marcella.
Thank you too. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. We will hope to see
Bye.
you soon again on another Charity How To webinar. Goodbye.